So you want to start a podcast and you don't know where to begin? Well, let's help guide you on the way. Hello, my name is Jay, and this is Thoughts by Jay Brown, and this is an audio-only format. So whatever picture I decided to stick up in the video editor is great, but the reason why I'm doing this is because I want to not color your opinion based upon what microphone I am currently using at the time and so on and so forth. I have a range of various dynamic microphones, various condenser microphones, and another one for a surprise in a bit. But why am I doing this? I've had a coworker come up to me and ask me about podcasting and what they should do, and really it boils down to, what do you want to do with the podcast? Now, I'm going to assume that if you're watching this / listening to this, you are interested in starting a podcast. I'm also going to assume that you have figured out an idea. However, when I'm testing each microphone, I will have a phrase that I'm going to say. And it's not to test plosives or anything. It's not anything like podcastages, please bring pizza pronto saying. Speaking of that, I am actually doing this without any foam coverings, no pop filters. This is as raw of audio as you're going to get. The only thing that I may do is boost the audio level in post-production. So, with that, and if I do that, I will create like a lower third so you know which microphone it is, or at least you know which microphone number it is, and whether or not I had to boost it in post or not. So, setup. I'm currently talking on a $100 dynamic microphone going into my Procaster Pro. Now, for those of you that are unfamiliar with mixers and audio interfaces, the Procaster Pro is a rather high-end, $600 at the time of this recording. And it has a bunch of processing and other features to it. I am not using any of those. I am doing this, like I said, raw as possible. So I'm using the generic dynamic setting and the generic condenser setting on the microphones that are connected via XLR. Any USB will be discussed at the time as being USB. So, what is the difference between a dynamic and a condenser microphone? If you are new, great, I'll explain it. If you've listened to me before or you know a bit about it, bear with me. A dynamic microphone uses just the sound of your voice to create an electrical signal by basically moving the diaphragm of the microphone capsule and generating an electrical signal that goes down the cable, whether it's USB or whether it is a XLR. Well, I take it back. USB dynamic mics still have a digital, basically an analog to digital converter, an A to D converter inside, so it's not going down the cable the same way that it does doing an XLR. But point being, uses your voice to drive the diaphragm to create the electrical signal. Once it gets to the mixer or audio interface, it's converted into its digital form and recorded in the waveform, of whatever it is. That being said, let's talk about condenser microphones. Condenser microphones are a little bit different. They require, on average, 48 volts phantom power. And what that means is that you would need to supply extra power via your mixer or audio interface to the microphone to allow it to drive the microphone, for the microphone to put out enough signal. The drawback to this is, in the room I'm recording in, it's very hard surfaces, no rugs, nothing to treat the room. That's part of the reason I chose this room for today. you should be able to hear it when I get to the condenser microphones as to why you would want sound treatment and or like foam coverings, pop filters, things like that. But the condenser microphone is more sensitive, so it doesn't need as much gain, it doesn't need as much level boosting, etc. Now, going back to dynamics for a minute, there are some gain-hungry dynamic microphones. You probably know of one, or you see it on Twitch a lot, and even YouTube. And that's the Shure SM7B. I unfortunately do not have one of those. But if I did, I would have to probably have a cloud lifter or a FET head. Basically an inline preamp that takes phantom power from the mixer audio interface to boost the signal of the microphone in the chain. So, let's go on. The phrase that I'm going to be saying into each microphone, and what I want you to do, actually, before I get to that phrase, what I would like you to do is to rate the microphones. I believe I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 microphones that I'm going to be testing. And I want you to tell me which one you think is which. And, well, actually, I have 6, but I don't want to. I am going to have 7 samples, and I'll explain why later. But I want you to rate them. Which ones do you think are which? And if you can tell me what is what. So, the phrase that I'm going to be saying. The phrase that I'm going to be saying is, so you need a topic. Here are the 3 that I discuss. I have a travel podcast, a sports podcast, and a general topic that covers everything from current events to politics and other topics. And that's the phrase that I'm going to say into each microphone. And as I say it and switch to between the various microphones, I hope that you will be able to pick up on the differences and tell me which one's your favorite, which one you think is the best, which one you think is the worst, and we'll go from there. So, let's start the test. And if you're ever syncing audio to video, and you, especially when you're doing like a talking head video for yourself, and you're recording the audio separate from your camera, you should always do a clap, like, so you have a cue. So, that's going to be my cue. So you need a topic. Here are the 3 that I discuss. I have a travel podcast, a sports podcast, and a general topic that covers everything from current events to politics and other topics. That was mic number 1. Let's move on to mic number 2. Mic number 2. So you need a topic. Here are the 3 that I discuss. I have a travel podcast, a sports podcast, and a general topic that covers everything from current events to politics and other topics. End of test for mic 2. Going to mic number 3. Mic number 3. So you need a topic. Here are the 3 that I discuss. I have a travel podcast, a sports podcast, and a general topic that covers everything from current events to politics and other topics. Mic number 3. Going on to mic number 4. Mic number 4. So you need a topic. Here are the 3 that I discuss. I have a travel podcast, a sports podcast, and a general topic that covers everything from current events to politics to other topics. That's the end of test for mic number 4. Going on to mic number 5. Test of mic number 5. So you need a topic. Here are the 3 that I discuss. I have a travel podcast, a sports podcast, and a general topic that covers everything from current events to politics and other topics. That is the end of test for mic number 5. Going over to mic number 6. Microphone 6. So you need a topic. Here are the 3 that I discuss. I have a travel podcast, a sports podcast, and a general topic that covers everything from current events to politics and other topics. End of microphone 6. Okay, so unfortunately, I had an issue with one of the inputs that I was trying to record. So unfortunately, there won't be a mic 7. But with that said, I hope you can hear and appreciate the quality of the audio from each one. And which one did you like the best? I'm going to tell you that starting out, one of my favorite mic types is actually a USB and XLR combination. The Samson Q2U or Q2U and the Audio-Technica ATR 2100. Yeah, those are the two mics that I think provide for the greatest mobility in podcasting. It allows you to connect via USB to your computer, so that way you don't have to worry about getting an audio interface or a mixer per se. But it does allow you to eventually get to those and not have to spend more money on another microphone. Whereas if you were to go with like a straight USB microphone, it would cost you more money to buy a new microphone to input into that audio interface, or to buy cable patches, things like that. So it's ultimately, if you can get a dual to start with, and they run around, $70, $80 to $100 depending on where you're buying them, what type, etc. So there's that. With that said, though, if you can afford, and you know you're going to do this as more of a career passion type thing than just a small little hobby, then I would recommend getting a audio interface like a Focusrite Scarlett Solo or a 2i2 to allow you to record your podcast, as well as allow you to have a guest if you're recording at the same place. And if you really want to have more than one guest, then going with like a 4i4 or an actual audio mixer. The problems with going in with an audio mixer directly that's not like a Zoom, what are they called? The Zoom P800, or their basic version of the Rodecaster, which is about $100 cheaper than the Rodecaster Pro. But without going with something like this where you can multi-track the mix out, is that everybody is recorded at the same volume levels, but they might not be mixed to the right volume levels. So this is where having a multi-track functionality is going to be beneficial. With that said, though, if you wanted to start a multi-person podcast that you record locally onto a laptop or a desktop computer and you're only using USB microphones, I would suggest using multiple different types. So that way your system doesn't get confused by which one is which. And you can have them go out into a recording software that can do multi-track recording, such as Adobe Audition, GarageBand. I believe Audacity can do it as well. But, the point being, make sure that you can get what you need done, but don't break the bank doing it. So, with that, let me know which ones you think were which mics. I will have a list of the mics that I use, not in the order that I presented them in, and I hope that you will be able to guess which one was which. And with that, take care and have fun. Peace.